my God.
Get
I'm
your
swirling
Sticks! Get your
sticks
sticks!
in my mind. Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Drummers Education Connection. Welcome back to our friends and supporters. My name is Jeremy Steinkohler. I'm here with three amazing brothers in drums and in life: Rick Stojak, Chip Ritter, and Bart Robley.
And Jeremy Steinkohler. Hey, look.
Jeremy Steinkohler.
Steamroller.
Look, I hold my stick like this, and it's like I have a Jeremy popsicle.
That's wrong. That's just wrong. Anyways, we're here today to talk about, it's interesting how we come up with topics for the Drummers Education Connection for our roundtables, and we'd love to hear from you guys if there's topics you'd like to talk about or you'd like to hear us talk about related to teaching, to drumming, to life as an artist, as a creative. And one of the things we came up with for our discussion topic today was choosing the path of being a creative person as a life path, as a career path. And we can talk about creativity and other aspects of music, of course, and how we come up with drum parts and all those kinds of things. Creativity really cuts across so many different aspects of who we are as human beings and what we do as musicians. But we're going to start the conversation by talking about the path, choosing the path to become a creative, and what that's about, what risks it entails, what challenges, what rewards. And I want to kick it over to Rick, my friend Rick in Southern California, because Rick, you came into being a professional drummer and an educator relatively late.
Yeah, I did.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I'm especially curious to hear from you about, that fork in the road maybe that you decided to take at some point where you thought, you know what I'm doing so far isn't fulfilling me in the way that I want, and that path really looks appealing, and I'm gonna go full board down that path.
Yeah,
of course, you're so successful now, but what was it like for you? Tell us about it.
Well, I had the good fortune. I started playing drums when I was just 13 years old. And then by the time I was 16, I was playing in New York City. I played at CBGB in Max's Kansas City with my older brother, who was a guitarist who got me started. And, we wanted to be rock stars, man. That's how we had the dream. We thought we were good enough. We had, at a young age, this big production company that signed our band to this recording contract, and they were shopping our music to major labels. We had all these major labels interested in us. I remember the guy, our engineer producer said, "Man, you need to buy your mom a fur coat." me being 16, I graduated from high school a year early because I thought, man, we were going to do it, And it was an amazing experience, man. I played CBGB at 16 years old. I was in the studio. I was fired up, man. I couldn't believe it. I thought, our music was outstanding. I just have to say, we had a great band. It was called Be Wild was the band. So I didn't go to college for music, and we weren't playing cover tunes. So I was just teaching a little bit at that point, but I needed a job. I needed medical insurance, So what did I have to do? I had to just go work, and I worked at a clothing store in the warehouse. So I had a warehouse job, and I kind of hated it, man. And even though the creative process of making music was awesome, it wasn't like this, hey, I want to be a rock star, so you are a rock star. That's not how this industry works.
Bless you.
It's a safer bet if you go to college and study engineering. There's going to be lots of companies that will hire you, right? It doesn't work that way in drumming and music. It's just because you're good or into it doesn't mean a thing, man. It really doesn't. And so we have to all be aware of that. Younger players trying to think about breaking into this world, into this scene of music. So, the band had limited to success, but not to the point where I could make a living off of it. So I was stuck in this kind of warehouse job. What am I going to do? And we just kept pumping this band for, trying to make it. We moved to California. We wanted to be in the LA scene. And then the music industry changed. So our sound suddenly was dated. So it was kind of like chasing our tails, right? And so I think I practiced as much as any pro player, probably more. I mean, we used to rehearse 5 nights a week with this band, and so it never really popped. And then I ended up getting a corporate job that I liked. It was in sales and marketing, and it was a great job. And they gave me the freedom to go off and tour. So I started playing with bands, that would tour. So I played with Barnyard Ballers. We went to Europe 3 times, toured all over the country. So it was a nice niche, man. I had a corporate job I liked. I had the money I needed. I had medical. I bought a condo in San Diego. And then I'd go off and tour, and it was awesome. It was, but man, I always like, God, I want to be a rock star. I want to be a rock star, But as time goes by, you start seeing the life of the rock star and realizing, man, you know what? That's not that appealing. So I was actually pretty content with this corporate job, gigging, and then started teaching in 95. And that combination was real nice. I always had cash to build up my studio, have a good car, have my medical. And for me, I think everybody has to travel down the lane that works for them. I wasn't a guy who's going to sleep on a couch and live check to check. It's just not my lifestyle. Having a corporate job gave me this ability to be creative with what music I wanted to play, which was just beautiful. I could be creative. I didn't have to play any music that I didn't like. So I always loved the music that I liked, or I always loved the music that I played. And then I was teaching and just really, really digging teaching, but it was a double lifestyle. And then I wasn't really, for me, Jeremy, to answer your question, I wasn't ready to go full time until I knew I could make a decent living off of it.
Right.
And so for years, I had my corporate job, lots of drum lessons, gigs. I was so busy, it was ridiculous. But I wasn't going to give up any of them until in my 40s, mid 40s, that I said, man, I could do this. I don't need the corporate job. And now I just love it, and I don't miss the corporate job at all. But I've gained from that experience all the business and marketing, skills that I got in the corporate world. I applied to my drum teaching business and my music career. So
fantastic.
So it sounds like
you got to be careful.
You have no regrets about the path how you got to where you are.
No, I would say I have no regrets. I really enjoyed the corporate world and the freedom that allowed me, and all being creative at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. So,
yeah, that's a great point. I mean, as we know, and not just in our own experiences with our lives, but with all our friends. I mean, how many musicians do we know? Tons and tons. Those are all my people are musicians. My whole community is musicians. And everyone's made that choice at some point, to different degrees to, balance it out with, desire for security and comfort and also passion for their art, and everyone draws that line a little bit differently. And, as far as I'm concerned, Rick, you are a rock star.
Thanks, man.
Totally.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
I
always, when I think of Rick Stojak, I say this whenever your name gets brought up. I'm like, Rick is like a positive energy hand grenade. I mean, I don't know how anybody could ever be around Rick and go, man, I'm bummed. I mean, Rick is one of those guys, like you hang out with him and, your arm falls off and you're standing there. Oh, my arm fell off. He's like, it's okay, man. Rick Allen does it with one arm. You'll be fine. I mean, that's just Rick. He's always looking, a total rock star.
Oh, man. Bart, I could say the same about you, buddy, too. That's why we all just click. There's this energy that all 4 of us have, and it's just very, very easy to connect with you guys, and I think that's part of happiness is as having friendships and connections, and that's what I love about the path of teaching. because
Yeah.
you're making the world a positive place. You're helping people out, even if they don't pick up a stick and they just want to talk the whole time. That's a very, very rewarding career in music. So
Yeah.
Well,
I agree.
and one of the things that I think about a lot in regard to that is, what percentage of the students that I teach are going to become professionals,
yeah,
Right.
right?
small.
And very, very small. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I can count on one hand the number of students I've ever taught, probably 5, who have turned into professional drummers.
Yeah.
And even those, one of those, went to music school, dropped out, got a regular gig, now plays in a bunch of bands that are successful, but has a gig. I mean, a day job,
Right.
Yep.
and he's a monster drummer. And it's important to remember that not everyone, not just not everyone, most people, 98.9% of the people we teach and come across, they're not in this for the long haul to be professionals. They're in
Right.
it to just enjoy music and have music be a part of their lives.
Yeah.
And that's as far as I'm concerned, that path of that's offering people who maybe don't have that creative outlet, who didn't choose the full-time creative path, an opportunity to incorporate it into their lives to have some balance, right? So maybe they're a corporate worker or whatever, a garbage truck driver or a carpenter or a plumber, but music is what gives them soul satisfaction, and so what a great gift that we can offer that to these people to have that
Exactly.
creativity.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Chip, how about you, man? Tell us about your path and the choices you made to become a creative.
Oh man, my path was I was always being told to quiet down and be quiet and stop making so much noise. And
Don't
my
yell, Chip.
parents-
Don't yell.
My parents took me to my brother's high school football game, and the marching band came out with this line of snare drums, and they were just chun chun chicka chun 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 chun. And I looked over, and my parents were going like this, and I was just like, I'm too loud, but this is okay. I want to be a drummer. I want to be a drummer, and that's just I set me
I
on
love
fire.
it.
I saw the Muppets with Buddy Rich and Animal. I was a fan of Animal. I tried to make little drum sets out of Kentucky Fried Chicken buckets, and I mean, I was just I wanted to be a drummer. That's all I knew. I just wanted to be a drummer, and every chance I got to play in every band I could play in, I played, and went through high school like that. As soon as I got out of high school, I started drinking and using drugs. And I threw away all kinds of opportunities, and I hit a bottom and threw everything away. And then I got clean and sober. And the first thing my mentor said, you can do anything you want to in this life if you stay sober and keep working this deal. What is it you want to do? And I was like, I want to be a drummer. And so I started playing the drums again, and I started practicing, and I started networking, and I tried to get in some bands, and I got into a jam shed with a band, and we started doing gigs. And I moved out to Tucson and fell in love with this girl and started immediately playing with the local blues band. And one thing led to another. I've always had a day job like driving auto parts or you name it, flipping burgers and making tacos. And I've always considered my day job as the way I can fund the expedition. The only reason I had that job was so I could pay my bills, so I could keep playing drums, and I turned professional when I went on Carnival cruise ship gig as a country band player in a country band. And that was my first all the way professional situation. And I've been pro ever since so far, knock on wood, since 98. It was 1998 when that started. And, I think the first thing I'd say to anybody watching, if you're choosing to be a creative and you want to follow this path, you have to be passionate about it.
Yeah.
You have to love it. One of Gene Krupa's old drum boys students came back to visit him and said he was doing a gig and he was thinking about going pro. And as soon as he said he was going pro, Gene Krupa pushed him up against the wall and said, if you don't love this, get out now. If you don't love it, get out now. You have to love it. You have to have a passion for it. And I think anything that you follow with that much passion will yield results. I believe that the universe will open up for you if you convince it that this is truly what you want. I think anybody can do this, especially if I can do this, anybody can do this.
Right.
Chip, what happens if you don't have the passion?
If you don't have the passion, then you're dead in the water.
Here,
You
here.
know?
Yep.
You're dead in the water.
Yeah.
You know that passion obviously isn't there if you're not willing to put it in the action and put in the time. You know.
Yeah.
That can be said of anything, don't you think, Chip? I mean, not just
Yeah.
drumming. I mean, anything,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Passion is the
Well,
key.
And I'd say also, like, you know, it's one thing if you're going to do a job that's going to give you all these other benefits, you know, security, financial compensation, health benefits, all those things. And if you're not happy, well, at least you're trading, you know, some degree of your happiness for these creature comforts or stability.
Yeah.
But if you're going to choose to be a musician, you're not going to get any of that stuff, right? So you better love it, because it's going to give you this other satisfaction. And hopefully, if you're lucky, you can figure out a way to get stability and security and all those things through it. But you know, otherwise,
yeah. Well, you know, the more you're passionate about it, the more you're willing to step up and do the work outside of just playing that it takes to create a career.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Good point. Really good
the
point.
more passionate you are about it, the more willing you are to take action. And the more action you take, the more the universe is going to say, oh, this guy's serious. Okay, here's an opportunity.
Yeah.
That's
I
a really
agree.
good point. I
Fortune
totally agree.
favors the bold.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Say that again, Chip.
Fortune favors the bold.
There you go.
Taking bold steps. You know, I had a chance with a metal band in '97. I had a good job driving auto parts, and that was paying my rent, and I was doing good with that. And I was playing with my metal band, and that was my dream, to be a rock star. And we had an opportunity to be extras in a Kevin Costner movie and move up to Medellin, Washington, and to move into Seattle and go for a record deal. And I took my life savings out, I sold my truck, and I put all the money into this moved with the band up to Seattle. I put everything in there. I had nothing left. It was just, we went all in. And, you know, it failed after a year and a half. It kind of imploded, but I went for it. You know what I mean? At least I went for it. And it's like going for it is I have no regrets on the failures, because it led me to that next opportunity, you know?
Right.
There
That's
it is.
great. Man, I love hearing that story. I really love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's like you got one life to live here. What are you going to do with it? You know, take the safe, conservative road, or try to go for your dreams. And you know what? They don't always work out the way you expect them to, but they often work out in different ways that can be, you know, rewarding.
Yeah, and you got 24 hours in a day, right? We've all got 24 hours. Why not go all in? You know, today.
Yeah, and you know, I got to chime in on this, Chip, because of the flag that's hanging behind you, and I think living here in America too has afforded us, and you know, I'm not going to get political and talk right or left. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we are in a situation where we live in America and we can do whatever we want, and if we fail at it, there are so many options just to, okay, I'm going to spin on my heels and go this way now. You know, in a lot of countries, I don't think you don't have those opportunities.
Bart,
and again, I'm on my soapbox a bit.
I would agree with you that in many countries you don't have that luxury of that freedom. But I would also say that there's plenty of people in America that also don't have that freedom.
I agree with that. Yeah. Yes. No, and again, I'm not turning this into a political thing at all. I'm just saying.
Right. No. I'm not. I didn't take it that way. I'm just saying. You know, it's good to acknowledge, you know, how fortunate we are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that don't have a drum set. I get new students all the time. They're like, I don't have a drum set. What do you recommend? And I keep thinking to myself, I can't imagine not having a drum set. You know, like that's just huge.
Yeah, you sold your
Jacob
truck.
Says if you don't have the passion, then you won't have the perseverance to see things through.
Yep.
Thanks for watching, Jacob. And David Betts says, Denzel Washington said, if you're going to fail, fail big. Go on,
there you go.
I love that. I love that.
Everybody successful has, right? Failed big at one point or another.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Rick, you're right. Yeah.
Bart, let's kick it to you, man. Tell us about your story and your choices, your life choices you made that brought you to where you are, to be the rock star that you are.
Well,
You are,
I don't
dude.
know about.
You are a rock star. You're all rock stars.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Just
I
Without
follow my
I
social media. You'll see it.
I I thank you. But I'm I'm actually when you say that, I just personally shoveled, 9 yards of rocks into my backyard, and I didn't feel like a rock star. That's where I was rock star. They were rocks, and I shoveled them in the backyard. No, I think that's great, and I appreciate it, and um, but that and the $5 will get you a cup of coffee. You got to work hard. Work ethic is something that I think all three of us, really, really, really have. And as far as the path to success as a creative person, I think everything I'm about to tell you funneled into me being a drummer. Um, when I was 5 years old, my mom took me to an Elvis concert, and I got to see Elvis Presley. And about 3 songs in, it was no longer an Elvis Presley concert, it was a Ronnie Tutt concert, and
Mm.
this guy in the jumpsuit kept getting in the way of the drum set. I'm like, "Get
Yeah.
the hell out of the way, I can't watch him play drums." And I was hooked, I mean, the concert at that time was just it wasn't so much about the drums, it was just about the event and the electricity. It was like when Elvis walked on stage, a bomb went off.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, the Aloha from Hawaii TV special came on, and the camera was behind Ronnie Tutt, and I was like, "That's what I got to do." I've been really and I grew up in Colorado on a cattle ranch, and that is where I got my work ethic. Because and my father owned a construction company and all these things. It was a real blue collar work ethic, close to the earth type of existence. If you don't get up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning and go out and feed the cows in the middle of wintertime, they will die. So you had to do that. And that's what I did. And in 1987, 88, 89, there was a series of events in my life that led me to know that I didn't want to stay in Colorado. There was issues with family and all the big stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm out. I'm going to go to California. I got tired of shoveling snow and working on the ranch and stuff. So, and a series of events happened there. So I moved to California to like all so far. Rick and Chip said, to be a rock star, and I started doing it. I started playing the Sunset Strip. I played all four of the big clubs. A lot of people don't know that the Troubadour is not on the Sunset Strip, but I played many times. Played the Troubadour, Gazzari's, which was my favorite, the Roxy, the Whiskey. Played all of them, and it led me to the Sam Morrison band. I played in two bands before that were like those type of bands. We were focused on trying to get a record deal. But through that, those were the bands that played the Sunset Strip. But through those things, they led me to a day job at a place called Orange County Speaker, where we repaired speakers, every kind of speaker, from your home audio speakers to pro audio speakers to big PA systems. And the man that I worked for, his name was Gary Sunda, and Gary was the design engineer for Randall amplifiers for many years. He designed the RG80 guitar amplifier. And through that, I learned about sound. I learned about how to run sound. I learned what compressions were and crossovers and EQing and Thiel small parameters for speaker cabinets and all this technical stuff. And so I knew how to run sound, how to set up sound. And that's creative. That is an extremely creative process. This will all come full circle in a minute to where it goes into my story nowadays. But also from there, I kind of realized that, there was the performing arts, the sound arts, and the recording arts, but all three of them could go into one. When I met up with the Sam Morrison band, when I met up with Sam, I was lucky enough. I saw this once with one of the actors in Game of Thrones. He goes, I put everything that I had into my passion of being an actor. And so, like Chip said, somewhere along the line, the universe lined up for me and put me in company with like-minded people that wanted the same thing. And it has not been easy. It's been a lot of work, but all of us um, kind of got on the same path. Like Chip said, went down a long road of doing the wrong thing. I didn't do drugs, but I drank too much, and put an end to that. Quit that, sobered up, and through all of it, I was still able to create. I then decided and realized that I like to create graphic arts. And by no means like, gosh, Jeremy, your wife Michelle, she's an amazing graphic artist. My friend Blackthorn, the guy I just finished an album with, amazing graphic artist, does all the graphic arts for Lucas Oil and um, he did the Cholula hot sauce bottle and stuff like that. And I learned that I like that stuff. So I think the creative process for me was and is the top of the heap is playing drums. But artistically, there's layers to it. So through all these life paths that we all go down, well, I want to be a drummer, but hey, I can get a mix up for the band and get the band sounding halfway decent. I can put some compression on the snare drum. I've learned how to play in the studio doing countless albums. Thank God. I don't mean that going like this. I'm so thankful that I got to do that. But I learned during that how to record and mix an album and how to EQ things. Very creative. Then so I just did my own album, my own first solo album. I learned that creatively I love to write lyrics that are true life lyrics that are stories. Very creative. I hooked up with the guy Blackthorn, who's an amazing songwriter. We partnered up. We did this album together. Sam Morrison Band, countless records. Even if we're doing re-records, because I got to do a lot of re-records. I'm going to be talking about that during my clinic on Deck Days. There's a plug for Deck Days. Uh, when you're doing a re-record of a song that was a famous hit, there's a lot of creativity that goes into that.
Yeah.
So I think the creative process, like the inspirational process, is always around you. You have to really pay attention, and the things that you like, grab a hold of them and hold on to them. And maybe it's not about being the best at it, but it's about being good enough that you can get it done. You can get the job done and done fairly well. I remember one time Bissonette told me, he goes, I'm not a pro in any of these things. Like, I'm not a great Latin player, but I know a little enough to be dangerous. And I watch him play it and I'm like, dude, come on. Who are you fooling? You're a killer Latin player, but he's so humble. And so that's what I think for me, the creative process was about. And that's like a short condensed version of it. And then I want to close it with this, because I did this on the Dom Famularo when I got interviewed by Dom for the Sabian show. I right here on my computer, I have this beautiful new home that Lee and I bought, and I'm so thankful for it, and I'm so humbled by it at times. It's a material object, it's a house, right? But it's my second home that I've owned, and I always kind of look back and I look at my path and how it's gotten me to be where I am. And this is where I grew up. This is the house that I grew up in. That's the cattle ranch. That's me standing outside the back door right there. And I kind of keep this right here by my computer because it reminds me. And it not only reminds me of what I have and what I'm thankful for, it reminds me that that you can do anything that you want. And then I would be so remiss if I did not say this. None of this would have happened had I not met my wife, Leah, who has stood by me and helped me when she shouldn't have, I mean, it was just, she shouldn't have. So I think being creative takes you down a lot of paths and you have to recognize it. And I think being creative awards you certain places where you got to learn to be thankful, because for a long time, especially when I was drinking, I wasn't thankful. And now I am. And then the very last thing I'll say, and I don't mean this the least of which, but my students mean so much to me. We were just talking about this morning. I still get fired up when a student sits down and like, I'll never be able to do this. I just cannot play this part. There is no way. And then 3 weeks later, they're killing it. And I go, I thought you said you couldn't play this part.
Right.
You know, I just love that. So to me, teaching is creative, but it's also giving back.
Yeah,
It's also giving back. So
No,
sorry,
no,
I got a little long-winded there.
No, that's fine, man. That's all great stuff.
Great
That's worth its weight in gold, man. All these stories are beautiful and inspiring, and you know, we all came to where we're at. You know, I think we all find ourselves in somewhat similar places. We're all professional players.
Yeah.
Got lots of bands and recordings we've done. We all teach, have successful teaching practices.
Yeah.
But boy, did we take different paths to get there. You know,
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things about it is that you know you don't have to follow the same path, and you don't have to fit the same mold.
Right.
You know, if Chip said if he could do it, anybody could do it. I feel like the same way. If I could do it, you know,
Me too.
You just have to want it.
Here.
So
Jeremy, what about you? Because you're the jazz guy. You're like the swing jazz master.
Well, you know,
did you want to be a rock star? Did you want to play for, or did you want to play for? Did you want to be Louis Bellson? What's your story?
You know, it's funny. I know you guys think of me like that, but in comparison to you, you know, I consider myself, you know, more on the jazz end of the spectrum. But you know, I've played all different styles of music all my life. You know, and rock and roll was a big, huge influence growing up. Yeah, I mean, Ringo Starr and John Bonham, and that was it, man. Steve Gadd, Jim Keltner. Eventually, you know, getting into those guys.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are, you know, people ask me who my favorite drummers are. You know, I can never narrow it down to 5. I would give a list of 10, and half of them are rock drummers, half of them are jazz drummers. But and you know, I mean, I've played in, and currently I play in like 5 different bands, you know, and those range from the jazz that's like more straight ahead / leaning toward avant-garde a little bit, and a funk trio with 2 saxophones. Talk about creativity. And there's so much room for me to play whatever I want in that context, right? There's no rules. It's called Mophone. We just played at the Monterey Jazz Festival last weekend, which is great. An R&B band, you know, I play with singer-songwriters quite a bit. So,
sorry, I like how you throw out. I just played the Monterey Jazz Festival.
Well, you know,
dude, that's huge.
Just to point out that a band that's so quirky and so unusual, 2 saxophones and drums, could reach that level of doing well. You know,
so cool.
It's cool.
You got creative again. Anyway, so
sorry.
No, you know, I didn't grow up. I mean, as much as I always loved drumming, even from the get-go. My first exposure, my dad was in a community theater production, and there was a pit orchestra, and the pit was a drummer and a piano player, and I watched the drummer the whole time. And you know, my dad said, you know, hey, what do you think of the show? I was like, I don't know what you did, Dad, but the drummer was really cool. They took me up to meet him afterwards, and he was a teacher at Juilliard, as it turned out. I grew up in New York City. And I started taking lessons with him. He was my first instructor, and you know, kept going. You know, and I wasn't like one of those kids that was like, oh, full speed ahead. This is it for me. You know, like you guys. Oh, you know, Kentucky Fried Chicken buckets. It wasn't me. I liked it. I loved it, but I didn't have a lot of discipline when I was young, and I didn't practice a lot. And you know, I kind of moved away from it, then kind of came back to it again when I got to high school, when there were opportunities to play. I saw kids who had been going all along with it, and were really good, and playing in a jazz band and playing in their rock bands and ska bands. And I thought, now that's why I wanted to do this in the first place. But now there's these opportunities if I'm good enough, and I wasn't good enough. So I went and started with a new teacher who was a jazz guy, and got, you know, really into it, practiced a lot, you know, worked my tail off. There was one summer between whatever it was, sophomore and junior year maybe, where I practiced like every day for a couple hours, and quickly went from, you know, the worst drummer among the drummers in school to the best one. And but even still,
I love hearing that. Sorry.
When I went to college, you know, I went to the University of Michigan, and I didn't consider applying to music schools when I went to college. But when I was there, I thought maybe I should be in music school. Maybe I should apply to Manhattan School of Music, which is like at the time sort of one of the top jazz drumming programs. John Riley is the great educator and author. He's the head drummer there, the head of the jazz department. And I went and got the application, and I put it all together and I filled it out and I had it on my desk in an envelope ready to send, and I never sent it. And I thought, you know, Michigan's a good school. I should get a degree. Who knows where my life's going to lead? You know, I don't know if I want to, like Rick was talking about, you know, I don't know what kind of security I might have being a professional musician. You know, it was scary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said, let me just get a degree. I can always have that to fall back on, because who knows where my life's going to lead. And a degree, you know, a BA from a place like Michigan is going to do more for me than a degree in jazz drumming from Manhattan School of Music, if I'm not sure what I want to do, right?
Right.
So I got my degree in literature, and as soon as I got out of college, it's okay, time to figure out something.
There you
to do.
go.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks. And I got out of college, and I thought, okay, it's time to do music.
Yeah. I love it.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. I
rad.
love it.
Even though I got my degree in English, you know, I had always thought about wanting to pursue drumming and be serious about it. What would happen if I put all my eggs in that basket? I never knew, and I didn't want to never know.
Right.
Right. I didn't always want to wonder down the road, what if I had pursued drumming? Could I have made it and been successful, and you know, whatever that meant.
Right.
And so I did. I had started teaching some lessons when I was there at school to make some money on the side, which was a great little side gig as a student. And I moved to California and the Bay Area, Berkeley, and teaching some lessons. Had a bunch of different odd jobs, doing different things, packing drum videos in a warehouse for this drum video production company, Interworld Music. I don't know if you guys remember them. And then, you know, it was like, okay, when's my phone going to ring, you know, for all the gigs, right? And it doesn't quite work like that. So
Right.
I had to make things happen on my own. I met musicians. I put answered ads in the classifieds, because there was no internet back then, and started playing in bands, started going to jam sessions a little bit, and put together my own bands. I put together an R&B cover band. We started playing weddings and corporate events. I put together a jazz quartet, and a couple other things. And then, you know how it is, you play with people, they play with other people, they recommend you to other people, and just kind of, you know, pieced it together. And all the while the teaching thing was going parallel. So I was teaching and playing, and I was fortunate enough to be able to make it work, and have made it work ever since. And, you know, and then I started, not long after I moved out here in 1993, I started a program called Bandworks, which was a rock and roll school, basically school of rock and roll, before there was a school of rock and roll.
Right.
And I had, you know, was teaching drums and playing some bands, and had all these students, and they were all having trouble finding other people to play with. And I was hanging out after rehearsal talking to my friend Steve, who's a guitar player, and he was saying the same thing. I've got all these guitar students, and they want to play in bands, but, you know, no one knows how to do it, or how to even go about doing it. Finding a band, you know, you answer an ad in the paper, or you find a flyer at the guitar store. And we said, well, what if we got our students together to jam, and we kind of coached them a little bit? And, you know, from that conversation, the idea was born for this, you know, prototype of school of rock and roll type of program. And, you know, now Bandworks we see, you know, 35, 40 bands every quarter, about 1,200 students every year, and locations around the Bay Area. So yeah, so that was another piece of the puzzle. So really, ever since 1993, for me, it's been like a three-headed monster. It's been private lessons, you know, and I teach usually about 20 hours a week on average, and then running Bandworks, and then playing in bands. And at different stages of my life, the balance has been different between all three. You know, sometimes the gigs have been really good and lots of things happening. Like right now is really great. Other times gigs have been slower, and the teaching's been really solid. And, you know, I wouldn't trade anything. My wife asked me, I think it was a couple months ago, you know, if you could retire tomorrow and get all the money you needed, you know, what would you want to do? What would you want to do differently than what you're doing now? You know, and I said, not a whole lot. You know, I mean, I might, you know, maybe a little less teaching, maybe a little more other stuff, but like, I'm pretty happy doing what I'm doing. And I feel very, very, very fortunate that the path that I chose, you know, worked out, and that it's been so fulfilling for me. Um, but I think, you know, like to come back to what Chip was saying earlier about having to be passionate for it, like that's it. Like you, I knew when I was going to go down this road when I chose. All right, let me put my eggs in the music basket. That there was no, it wasn't going to be for the money. That was for sure. You know, I mean, yeah, maybe you get that one in a whatever 100,000 chance where you make the big time, but like, you know, there's guys that are way better than me that I'll never be able to touch. You can do that, you know, and
Yeah.
but you know, and it's easy. It's so easy, even at this stage, to look at all the things, you know, that we didn't do. I didn't do things I haven't done yet. You know, the world tour, the cover of Modern Drummer, blah blah blah, whatever it is. But there's so much great stuff that I've got that I've done
Yep.
that I should feel good about. You know,
Mhm.
music that's changed my life, that's changed the lives of the people I played it with, that's affected the people who've listened to it. Um, and yeah, you know, that I'll when I'm on my deathbed, I'll feel good about the choices I've made. I think.
There it is.
I
You
I
know,
think
there's.
that.
Oh,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead,
Rick.
Bart.
Well, I was going to say that I think that to the young listeners out there, one of the things that, or to you know, somebody's going to watch this or listen to this podcast, I think that you have to learn within your passion. I guess if you would call them sub passions or something, and to kind of help feed the monster, as Jeremy put it. And what I mean by that is all four of us on deck are we have different paths that we went down, like Jeremy said, but we're all four published authors,
Mhm.
okay? Whether it be with a publisher or if we're self-published like Rick, we are published authors. And again, looking back to Rick Stojak as a you know, like almost like a guiding light of what to do.
Oh
You're
man.
self-published. You've got these three books out, but not only do you have the three books out, but you created the artwork for the books. You put them together yourself. You take them to the printer. You get the printing done. That just to write a book alone. So anybody out there that you know is a drummer and they're thinking, okay, I'm going to write a book. Just the amount of work that it takes to sit down and write one page,
Yep.
much less an entire book,
Yep.
is it, you know, it takes a lot. And
Yeah.
so I think and you know, one of the things we're all kind of talking about is all this work and the work ethic and putting the work in. That goes without saying. I don't want to sound for myself personally like I'm on my soapbox going, you have to work hard. What I want to sound like is that you got to have, once again, the passion for it, and you've got to find a way to sit down and do it and and allow it to be creative for you, because there's
Mhm.
times I know when I was writing my books where it could be something as like, okay, well, what's the next groove going to be, and does that groove really sound good, or it could be this stupid computer program, you know, whatever it
Mhm.
is. You know, there's going to be obstacles, and like the title of the book says, I'm a firm believer that the obstacle is the way, because you know, it's so easy to take the path of least resistance. You know,
Right.
it's so
Right.
easy to take the
Yep.
path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And all four of us are super creative. I mean, Chip, okay, look at Chip's books, man. Snare Force One. The artwork in that is phenomenal. It's so cool. If I was 10 years old and I saw Chip's book, I'd be, this is my book. Let's what you know. I mean, this is
Yeah.
awesome. You know,
Mhm.
so creative. So and so I think have a, again, maybe a subcategory. I mean, Rick, what are your thoughts on that? Because of all of your books, what are your thoughts
Oh.
on that, Bob?
Well, I think all of us, there's a commonality that we've all had to have other income sources and to survive. Um, and I think that a lot of people who are already really successful out there, that you might say, oh, that's a known drummer, he or she is playing in this band. Well, they probably have like a side gig making some money.
Mhm.
Um, it's super common, and it's very hard to make a full income off of music. But if you're gonna make an income off of music, man, you've really, really got to be prepared. You've got to be super diverse, and that's part of it. And you have to love all of it. Like what Jeremy was talking about. Hey, you guys know me as a jazz drummer, but I play funk, I play rock. I mean, there it is. He's surviving as a musician because he can play all different kinds of styles.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you have to be super diverse and you want to love what you're going to do. You know, if you have to make some money that's not performing, um, you know, enjoy it. You know, I mean, you could work in a music store, you know, work in a drum shop, you know,
Yeah.
no, God, somebody start a drum shop, you know, we'll
Yeah.
support
Yeah.
you. We'll
Yeah.
support you. We need new drum shops.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
right. So the books to
Well,
me,
you already
that was
have one, Rick. Look around you. You already have one.
the only thing for sale here are books, man. so, so you know, that was
And
it.
wisdom.
I knew that I could teach the best out of material that I wrote. That's also
Yeah.
how I practice because my practice is, well, like right now I'm working on some jazz open and close hi-hat, you know, foot splashes, jazz patterns with foot splashes, you know.
Yeah.
I keep thinking of Jeremy with that, you know. Um, that's a little out of my realm, but man, that's making me practice. And I'm, you know, I'm writing down everything. I'll improvise something on that topic and then I'll record it and then I'll transcribe what I played and say, hey, that would be a good one in the book. It's
You know,
just super, super fun. My wife calls my writing like my crossword puzzle. It's like my whoopee, you know, it just calms me, you know.
Rick, I got to
Yeah.
mention, you know, John Riley has got one of his books, Beyond Bebop Drumming, has got a really great section on left foot hi-hat splashes.
Oh, I got to check that out.
Yeah.
I got to check that out. 'Cause I
That's
use
see,
I
this is
use
the whole thing. I don't
Yeah.
want to. I want to check it out and be inspired, but I'm not gonna. I've got to write it from my perspective, right? Because it's probably perfect as it is what John Riley wrote. You
Well,
know,
no.
Oh,
Not at all. You know, there's so
Yeah.
many different ways to go to skin the cat, you know,
yeah.
and to explain things. And,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, I've learned and taught out of so many different books, and they all have different strengths, you know. And so,
That's
man,
it.
write the open hi-hat splash jazz book.
That's it.
I'll buy it. You
Do
write
it.
I'll buy it.
That's it. Oh
Yeah.
man, I'm going to give you the draft pages, Jeremy, for you to check out before
Beautiful.
we
And
put
see,
this
and
in
that's
the
the
next
thing.
book.
I mean, you know, that old saying, you know, good composers borrow, great composers steal. And
Right.
and it's you know, you just because you practice out of a book that's written by another author doesn't mean that you're not inspired by that, which sparks the creative side, what today's whole show is about. That, hey, you know what, if he did this, well, what if we did it this way, or what if we did it that way?
Oh yeah.
Right.
I mean,
You know.
and I know the market is inundated with drum books now, and you know, over the last 30 years, there's more drum books than you can shake a stick at. But look at
Right.
Mark Wessels, who was a guest on our show a couple of months back. He's got this fantastic book series. Do you guys remember what it's called? The Essential Snare Drum or something?
Yeah, I think it is the
Yeah.
essential snare drum. Yes,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think.
Essential Snare Drum Method, I think. And
Yep.
he's self-published, and that's one of the best-selling snare drum books around.
That's
And he
right.
wrote it because there was nothing that he saw a need that
Right.
wasn't being filled. And so, you know, Chip's book does the same thing. He saw a need that wasn't being filled. Rick's books do the same things.
Right.
Bart's book does the same thing.
I
You
think
know,
you just
Rick
have
said-
to have your own kind of little spin on it, you know, like what
right.
and something that is natural for you. My whole thing was write all this stuff, but try to find a song that uses that.
Right.
So you can reference it. So people are playing to music right away. So you're learning while you're playing along to songs.
Yeah.
Rick said you were going to send a copy of the draft over to Jeremy. I want a copy of that too.
Oh,
Me too.
of
Just
course, you guys.
Think about the day and the age we're in, where you can write out the music and email
Here it
somebody.
comes. Here it
a copy
comes.
of that. Aren't we great? Aren't we grateful that we've been anointed with this technology?
Boom! There it is. There it is. There it
yeah,
is.
shit.
Got it
That's
in
what-
there.
I think
Waiting
that
for
blows
that.
my mind. That you can write out that stuff and then email somebody a copy of it like that. That's just great.
Yes,
What I
sir.
would suggest though for any younger drummer thinking about doing this is really, really know what you're getting into. Get realistic. I have never had a student come in here who's new to music who or is thinking about making a living and they hear what drummers make live, who they're always surprised when
Yeah.
they hear, what, you only get $100
Right.
Do
for
your
that
research.
gig? But I was trying to make a living off of this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so a lot of times
Yeah.
I've had students, I'm saying, okay, so here's what we need to do. You want to make a living. Let's make a budget. Let's make a
Right.
budget for living in San Diego, California, one of the most expensive cities.
Mhm.
Then, there's some opportunity here to make some money, but there's a cost of living. And you make that budget and you say, oh, okay, so now suddenly I need $4,000 to live
To
at
live.
$100 a gig. How is
Yep.
that going to work? Well, we
Yeah.
better start thinking about maybe working in a music store, maybe
Right.
doing some teaching. Maybe you
Yeah.
should go to college, take some communications or some computer classes, because they're only going to benefit your
No.
music career.
And that's my point. All
wa-
that stuff helps the creative process.
Right.
All that stuff
Yeah.
does. If you don't know how to, if you don't know how to run a computer, how are you going to run Logic or Pro Tools? How are you
Right.
going to run a
Yeah.
Sibelius or Finale?
Well,
Right.
and it's the big picture. It's not an either or, and maybe that's one of the takeaways from our discussion.
Yes.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
one of the takeaways from our discussion today is that
Yeah.
I used to think, and when I was sitting there in music at college with the application in my hands, do I send it or don't I? That it was a binary choice. It was a path, like either I'm all in for this or I'm doing a different path. And the truth is, everyone does it and balances it out in the way that they need to make it work. And I remember I went to one of those sessions panels that Dom Famularo has been hosting for several years, and one of the was Leland Sklar, Leonard Sklar. You got the great bass player with the oh my gosh, oh my, running on empty.
Was he part of the Rat Pack crew?
Yeah, what's the guy?
Wrecking Crew.
Jackson Brown. Jackson Brown. Yeah.
Oh.
No, he was post Wrecking Crew, but yeah, he was in the studio in LA.
Oh, I get it now. When you said running on empty, I thought you meant you were running on empty. I was like,
Jackson Brown. Jackson Brown.
yeah,
Right.
Jackson Brown.
He
I would have.
that crew. Oh, come on! Now I'm spacing out. The drummer, Russ Kunkel. Russ Kunkel. You guys.
Russ
know him.
Kunkel. Yeah.
Yeah. And the guitar player. Oh, dang it! This is not what I should be doing right now. Anyway, Leonard Sklar is a monster bass player. He's played with tons of artists, and he was talking about on the sessions panel how back in the day when there was all this recording work, and if you were part of the Wrecking Crew or part of this LA scene, and you were among the top handful top 10 calls for your instrument, you can make a living recording.
Yeah.
Back during the 60s and 70s. And even into the 80s. But now, most artists have, don't just go into the studio and aren't plugged into a rhythm section, like in the Motown days. And now most bands coming up have their drummer already, right? Or they're making recordings not at these same studios that used to make all the recordings, that were so well known. Think about Hal Blaine here, Earl Palmer, and those guys. And the landscape has changed.
Big time.
It's really, really, really difficult nowadays to make a living just as a studio musician. It's almost unheard of. And back then, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, that was one of the career paths that was an option for you. And so, in this different society, where it's no longer about, even record sales don't make money like they used to anymore, right?
Right.
Because downloads.
The only way to make money,
right. Now it's touring.
It's touring and selling. And you sell records nowadays and CDs to autograph. I had a guy buy a CD this weekend, and he bought it. He goes, I don't even have a CD player, but I want you guys to sign it.
Yeah, okay. My point is just that the landscape now is different than it was 20 years ago, even maybe, and certainly 40 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And you've got like Rick was talking about, you've got all these choices to make about different things you want to balance out. It could be teaching, it might not be teaching. It could be publishing, it might not be publishing. It could be touring, it could be playing in a bunch of bands, and it could be, getting a regular a job driving auto parts or working in a coffee shop. There's
Yep.
no shame in it. There's no shame in it. And, you know, you can be just as passionate about your music and all in to make it work, even when you're making ends meet, doing something else.
Totally.
That's it. You know, we
I
should do
think-
a whole episode on ways that you can make money as a musician.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
a
we
whole
should.
episode.
I'd definitely like to know, are there ways you can make money as a musician?
You guys get paid
It's a
for
round
this?
table, man.
No kidding. Wow. Never made a dime.
It can
know-
be done. It can be done, and
Yeah.
we're a living proof of it. The four
Yes.
of us are. And if you
For
want
sure.
some ideas, connect with us. We've got over 200 years of experience.
Yeah. Right.
You'd think after 200 years we'd be smarter. You know, one of the things that I want to throw out there really quick here at the end of the episode here is this. Let's to all of our drummer friends, whether you're watching this live or you're listening to it on a past broadcast on YouTube or what have you, you know, if you would please do us a favor, if you like what we're doing, as all the videos say, please subscribe to our channel and get the notifications from us. And also please share this with your drummer friends, and not even your drummer friends, but I think your musician friends. I think there's a, you know, with I know from just talking to my three friends here every week, there's so much knowledge here you can learn from, and you might have a certain musician friend that would gain something for it. So please share the content here. We would really appreciate that. And we definitely think that we want to think that the content is educational. That's why we do this.
Mm-hmm.
Go get educated, everybody. That's gonna, whatever that form of education is, man, you can't go in blind. That's for sure.
Speaking of
It looks like Chip's getting an education in thunder and lightning. I thought he was listening to
I am. It's raining and thundering, and my dog is going nuts. So I'm having a heck of a time with the mute button.
Dude, I love the thunder. You know what? We played out there last year in the middle of monsoon season, like July. We got canceled out of a couple of gigs. Dude, the lightning and thunder in Arizona is awesome. I love sitting out there and just watching it. It's beautiful, man.
That was
So-
Chip Ritter's kick drum. It was his trick kick drum.
Yeah,
that,
it
was
was-
that was my drum set.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
So I got a question for you guys. I want to throw
Shoot.
this around if it's okay.
Sure.
What would you tell an 8-year-old who's considering a path as a creative? What would your advice be for an 8-year-old? Go.
Mine would be as a creative drummer, or just being creative.
Being a creative, being an artist.
Perfect. Get yourself some coloring books, get yourself some crayons, get yourself have mom and dad get you a tablet, an iPad, a Samsung tablet, and get some artistic apps, downloads, programs, learn how to use them, learn how to draw, learn how to paint, learn about watercolors, learn about sculptures, learn about music, learn. If you want to be creative, but also realize that there is art in everything. You know, we always joke around that all four of us can reach within an arm's length and get a Star Wars figure, right? Okay,
Yeah.
look, this is a Star Wars figure, but it's artistic. Somebody had to think of Han Solo, right?
Ooh, I like
Somebody
that
had
too.
to think of R2D2. If you have a thing in your brain, then you have a story about, you know, Vern Shenangi. Write Vern's story and make him into the superhero that he is in your brain. Explore those things. If you want to be creative, be creative. Don't let somebody tell you can't be. And I think Rick's brother-in-law, Gene Hoglan, is a perfect example of that. He's a right-handed drummer playing on an open-handed, right-handed kit, playing open-handed. And his drum teachers always said, you can't do that. You shouldn't play that way. Well, he's freaking Gene Hoglan. He's one of the greatest drummers now because he didn't listen to those drum teachers. He played open-handed and listened to the guy play. Be creative in your way, not in somebody else's way.
Yeah, I
Mic
like-
drop. I'm out.
Right on, Bart.
Boom,
What
bam.
about you, Jeremy?
You know, I'd say don't believe anybody who tells you what you can't do. You get to be
Yeah.
the boss of your own life, and you get to make your own life happen. I'm gonna dig deep here into my literature background as a lit major in college. There's the opening to David Copperfield by Charles Dickens goes something like, whether I turn out to be the hero of my own life, or if that position might be held by somebody else, these pages must show. It's sort of like, am I here to live my life, or am I here to, be a pinball and bounce around and be the victim of circumstance? So that's what I would say is, you go grab the bull by the horns or whatever, forge your own path, create your own destiny.
Right.
Right on. How about you, Rick?
Well, I would say, as far as if we're saying being creative, thinking about a career in music, or just having fun, I might say to the 8-year-old the same thing I'm going to say to anybody at any age, and that is, don't go in blind. Get super educated. Study the instrument. Study the history of the instrument. Study the music. Really, really dive into the music. Get super diverse. And one of the biggest things I'd also say is learn how to communicate with people. The art of communication is getting lost and lost and lost. Everybody's just zoned in on their laptop. They don't know how to connect. They don't even know how to make a phone call.
Right.
And so you have to be able to communicate. It doesn't matter how good you are on the instrument. If you aren't fun to hang out with and you can't convey an idea to your band and your audience, you're dead in the water. So, and read these
Work
two
well
books.
with other people.
Yeah, play nice with each other, man.
Yeah,
And
play nice with the kids in the sandbox,
and
Have
read
fun.
Jeremy Steinkor's Finding the Groove and Zorro's The Big Gig.
Nice.
I wouldn't want to be going into this career without reading both of these books cover to cover.
You know something?
Thanks,
And then I'm gonna Chip. I'm gonna ask you the same question, but since Rick just said that, we just got back from a 5-night run in Laughlin, and I forgot my Finding the Groove book.
Oh,
And I forgot that one.
that's
and
why
I
you have to download the digital version from Hudson.
I know, right? I know.
Dude, every hotel has a copy of it.
Yeah.
In the top drawer.
They got the Gideon's Bible and Finding the Groove. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I did. I was like, well, shit. I would have left my pants at home instead of my book if I remember.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
anyway.
man.
Come on, you're making me
Okay.
cry.
Okay, Chip. What do you tell that 8-year-old kid? You're
Yeah.
up.
Man, I'm gonna say that you're a ball of light and powerful energy. You came here for a reason. You're already worthy of love, and you always will be. You're already an artist if that's what you truly want to be. Hold the door open for your mom, and never let anybody stop you from chasing your dreams, including yourself.
Oh,
Woo!
beautiful, Chip. Beautiful.
Wow.
Can I add one to that? Eat your vegetables.
Eat your vegetables.
Oh,
Yeah.
wear sunscreen and floss.
Wear sunscreen.
And go to the deck.
Floss.
Go to the deck clinic on November 12th.
Oh, yes.
Go to the deck clinic on November 12th.
That's the one piece of advice I would give an 8-year-old. Go
Yeah.
to the deck clinic. We're doing. You
That's
guys,
right.
you don't know this already. It's our fault because we're so terrible at promoting ourselves. But we're doing a live in person. You're gonna to meet all 4 of us in one room, which has never happened before. I don't think all 4 of us have been in the same room at the same time.
That's right.
On November 12th at the Aquarian Drumheads warehouse in Orange, California, right near Anaheim. We're going to be doing an afternoon of drum clinics. We're going to have tons of free giveaways, prizes, big stuff we're raffling off, a tour of the Aquarian facility, product demonstrations. It's going to be like a mini NAMM show for drums in 4 hours. It's going to be awesome. I am so looking forward to it. Bart, what's the name of your clinic?
The name of my clinic is Playing for the Song. I'm talking about sessions.
Rick, what's the name of your clinic?
I'm going to do a clinic on tom beats and train beats.
Chip, what's your clinic?
I'm going to do a clinic on stick tricks and showmanship. What about you?
Mine's going to be touch, tone, pocket, and feel.
So you can't miss this. Be
You
there
can't.
November 12th.
You got to
Go-
be there.
Chip, can you put the link up in the chat for the?
Absolutely. The link is there. It's going to be there.
Yeah.
Jeremy, by popular demand, is also going to show us how to floss his teeth.
What?
And in turn, you will learn how to floss your teeth.
I'm not going to do that. I'm really not.
Oh, come on, man. You're the one that brought it up. I'd
link-
pay good money to see that.
The link to get your tickets is in the comments in Facebook right now, and we'll try to get Bart to put it in the comments of YouTube. Go to the comments, go to that link, and go get your tickets now. If you're not going to be near Orange, California, that's fine. You can still get a ticket to stream it online live.
Yep,
Yes, sir, you can.
We're going to be talking about it more as it gets closer.
And we're going to be promoting the heck out of it this month, so everybody watch that. If you're a drummer and you see not only the poster that we've already kind of been sharing and throwing around, we're going to have artwork for each one of us individually coming up in the next 2 weeks. And if you would share that for us, we'd greatly appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, for being a part of our thing.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
You guys need to twirl out.
Twirl. I'm spinning out. I'm spinning out.
Twirl out. Twirl out.
Look at that.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks, David. Thanks,
Oh,
everyone.
that snare drum sounds great. Play that snare drum again, Rick.